Good evening guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to this Wednesday's episode of Rift Amps. Well, I've done it again guys, I've managed to do another hour-long video. It's just, there's so much I wanted to get in that I didn't want to split over more videos. So for those that enjoy the longer stuff, thumbs up. For those of you don't, the good news is I have got a lot of shorter format videos coming up for the Christmas special. So hopefully you're all going to be happy with that. Let's crack on with the video. Okay, it's time. I know some of you have been waiting for this amp. It's been in the repair queue for a while, but I finally got everything else that's ahead of it done. So now we can crack on. It's a 65 amps Little Elvis, or Lil Elvis. I struggle to say Lil, so I'm going to say Little Elvis. 65 amps. Now, I don't know much about 65 amps. I know they were manufactured at Boutique Amp Distribution. Whether they still are or not, I don't know. Not sure what the deal is now, but this is what's been described as essentially a Vox style amplifier, I think is fair to say. So it's in for a service and a couple of repair jobs on it too. First one being there's a problem with one of the input jacks, or the input jack. I can't remember what the customer said the issue was, but we'll try and investigate what's going on there. And it's got this bump switch, bump on and off, which I can't quite understand what it does. Bump control. The bump control is a much more effective alternative to traditional channel switching. The bump, trademark, allows the user gain up and reslope the amp's tone stack. The bump allows the user gain up and The bump allows the user to gain up and reslope the amp's tone stack. Do you think it's a misprint? Do you think the user to gain up and reslope the amp's tone stack, allowing much more mid-range to flow through the circuit, therefore gaining up the entire amp naturally and not inducing false preamp gain that creates fizz and buzz. The end result is the effect of having two amps in one. Right, okay, so that paragraph needs rewriting, doesn't it? Because that is not an easy read and doesn't really make sense. But we'll go with it. Customer complaint is that when he switches it, it makes all sorts of funny noises. So let's get this thing plugged in and see if we can work out what's going on with it. Chassis removed from the cabinet. By the way, this is serial number ending 3230. So, okay. Mercury transformers. Obviously, custom spec for this unit, both the power transformer and the output transformer. No choke, no reverb, of course, and no reverb transformer. We've got an EZ81 rectifier valve, two EL84 output valves, and then three preamp valves. And these two, they're not going to get your audience pregnant, are they? So let's have a look inside. Right, Q&A time. Haven't had many questions this week. Loads of comments, but not many questions. So we'll do what we can. I've got some other things I want to talk about and discuss and go through anyway. So let's crack on. So RFO, or RFA, says, read the 1 watt difficult cell challenge. I've got a Cornell that has a 4-stage power scaling down to less than 1 watt. Have you thought about making amps that have a low power mode, e.g. 15 watt and 1 watt? So here's my... yes, I have considered that, and the reason I haven't done that is because, quite simply, I don't like the sound of attenuated amplifiers. Amps that are either voltage starved or power soaked down to a low wattage, I still think, and I've been saying this for well over 10 years now, that it still takes too much away from the core sound, and you lose not only that touch response and feedback thing, but also some of those upper harmonics that make a valve amp what it is. To me, there is a very big tonal difference between an amp that's built and designed to run at 1 watt than there is a higher powered amp that's scaled down to 1 watt. There is quite a remarkable difference, and I will show you that on the scope and the spectrum analyzer one day. We'll do that, but it's very difficult. And if you're going to design an amp that does 1 watt, it better do it well. Okay, there's no point in, you know, oh, that'll do, that's fine. You know, 80% of the customers won't mind. Yeah, well, I mind. And if it's not good enough, it's not going out the door. So yeah, that's why 1 watt amps can be a difficult sell, because, you know, they've got to sound good. And I don't think attenuated amps down that quiet do at all. I was convinced in my head that this was going to be a PCB amp, but it's not. Look, lovely piece of eyelet board inside with all your components on, easily accessible. I mean, I can't say much for this lead dress. It's a bit, you know, spaghetti flapping in the wind, isn't it? But yeah, okay, fine. So 2 EL84s, cathode biased. And what can we see? Can we see anything that looks burnt or blown or damaged or out of place? So we look along, no we can't. There's a little satellite board here which might be to do with the effects loop. Yes, it is. Some components mounted on the sockets. But overall, very interesting. I have to spend some time looking through this and working out exactly what's going on where. So this, I need a jack plug, don't I? I need a jack plug. Need a jack plug. You'll do. So if we plug into this socket and wiggle it, what do we see? Do we see anything weird going on? No. Just in case I'm being stupid. Oh, do you know what? I've seen it. Look, that jumper there. Fine, let me get you a better shot. Oh, come on, stop doing that digital zoom. I want the correct zoom. Right, okay. Do you see it? Do you see it? This jumper here is not soldered this end. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You saw it move, didn't you? We'll move it back. Okay, well, that's why you do a visual inspection, folks. Okay, they're normally 11 mil. No, 7/16. Just about. God, that's in tight. What's 1 up from 7/16? 15/32, aka 12 mil. Where is my 12 mil crank upon? $15, no. $14, no. Come on, be 12, 13. 12 mil. Winner. Right. Oh, that whole thing's rotating. Look, that's no good. One moment. So just working on this Ainsley Lister board. So I've drilled it, I've swaged the eyelets in, I've populated it, so I've got all my components in. They're all good to go now. The next step is to do my underboards, overboards and flying leads, which I'm going to do next. Although I just realised I haven't drilled my wire holes yet. Not a worry. But what I do, excuse me, is for any connections on the underside of the board, I always draw them on with pencil where I want them to go, and then I've got a roadmap when I'm actually doing those underboard wires. Reason I do that is it gives me 2 stages of quality control and check, because obviously when the board is that way up in the chassis, you can't see what those wires are doing, so they need to be right. Now, it's easy to diagnose and find a missing connection. So let's say you need a wire going from, I don't know, this point here to this point here. Well, if you can't see it from above, you can use a continuity meter or an ohm meter to buzz that out and say, look, those 2 points are connected or they're not. That's easy to do, right? But what's not easy to do is to find when you misconnected something. So those 2 points should be connected, but they're not. And what you've actually done is connected this point to the wrong eyelet. Well, that is difficult to find from above and to work out the mistake you've made. And you never want to find yourself in that position. So what I do is I get my layout diagram, my drawing that I've done, and with a pencil on the underside, I know, for example, these 2 filter caps here, I know the grounds, the negative sides need to be connected. So I will draw that on there. Okay. And then when I'm doing, and then I can then follow that line with my wire, so I know those 2 things are connected. And then from above, I can then check those. But crucially, every step of the way, I'm making sure that I'm not connecting things to where they shouldn't be, right? That's one of the big mistakes that people make, is not missing off connections, it's misconnecting things. So never want that to happen. Anyway, cracking on. I apologise if I mispronounce your name, but Peter Van Baler or Baller. Hi Chris, thanks for the Sunday treat. No problem. I've got a question or 4. What is a parasitic oscillation? How do you diagnose it? What is the effect of the oscillation on the output? And what are the common causes? Right, okay. So you would have seen, most of you would have seen now, that I take parasitic or high frequency or ultrasonic oscillations. They all, we use interchangeable terms for them, very, very seriously. And the reason I do that is because they are the silent killer. They are a death sentence for your amplifier, no question about it. Okay, what is it? Well, we've all been at rehearsal or band practice, or we've been at a gig somewhere, and when the singer moves the microphone too close to a PA speaker and we get that awful feedback, that screeching sound, that's positive feedback, right? And that sounds awful. Now, you've never heard it where if the singer continually holds the microphone up against the speaker, okay, because they always put it away too quickly because it goes, and they put it away. Well, if they held it there, that feedback goes faster and faster, it oscillates quicker, and it gets louder and louder and louder, and it keeps getting worse and worse. It's a snowball effect, right? It keeps getting worse and worse the longer it goes on. That's painful, that's awful. A parasitic or a high frequency or an ultrasonic oscillation, I will say at this point there is a slight difference between all 3 of those things, but in audio devices and the way, especially guitar amps, we use them interchangeably. We use them to mean the same thing. That's what's happening. You've got that awful microphone squeal feedback inside the amp. Certain parts of the circuit are hearing each other, and that feedback is happening. Now, the problem is that if it's high frequency or ultrasonic, it means that the human ear can't hear it. So you as a player won't know it's happening. But what's happening inside the amplifier is that frequency is being amplified and fed back and amplified and fed back and amplified and fed. You get the idea, over and over and over again. Essentially, at that frequency, your amplifier is running flat out, full crank all the time, and it's cooking itself to death. And it will destroy valves, it will destroy your output transformer, and if you're extremely lucky, it might blow your power transformer, your mains transformer too. So when I say it's a silent killer, it's silent because we can't hear it, but it's definitely going on, and it's super dangerous. So if I ever see one on the oscilloscope, first thing I do before I do anything else is fix that problem. This goes on to something else I always say when people bring amps into me for modification. They say, you know, can you fit this mod? I want to do this, I want to do that. And I always say, I will only carry out this mod if the amplifier is healthy, and I want to make sure that it's not going to oscillate itself to death. So you can't never modify an unhealthy amplifier, all right? And if a tech agrees to do a mod without checking first, go find another tech. So that's one thing. Okay. What is the effect of oscillation on the output? It can be low power, ugly distortion. So sometimes you can hear not the oscillation itself, but you can hear the effect of that. So you'll get really strange low output. You can get a really harsh, grainy, grating distortion. It's one of the worst things. If you ever heard blocking distortion, it's even worse than that, right? But sometimes you can't hear it and you don't know it's going on, and that's the worst one. How do you diagnose it? Well, because the human ear can't hear it, it's difficult to diagnose. So you need a device that can hear it, and that's an oscilloscope. So you stick it on the bed. Now oscilloscopes go, well, my oscilloscope is up to 70 megahertz, right? So it goes to frequencies millions and millions of times, probably not millions of times, above the human hearing range, which is, what is it? Is it 20k? I'll have to double check that. Don't shout at me in the comments if I got that wrong. But the human hearing range is actually quite narrow, right? It doesn't go up very high. But an oscilloscope can see that and can show you what's going on. So you need a device like an oscilloscope to help you diagnose whether your amp has got one. As a side note, I get asked a lot why I don't sell amp kits for people to build at home, and that's primarily because you might accidentally build into an amplifier that you build at home a parasitic oscillation, and you wouldn't know about it unless you've got an oscilloscope, and that will slowly cook the amplifier and destroy things. And I see it on Facebook groups and forums all the time. People say, I built this kit, it ran fine. 3 weeks later, the output transformer went bang. Must have been a faulty transformer. No, transformer was probably okay. Most likely you had a high frequency oscillation, but you didn't know about it, right? And the problem is under sales law, it's very difficult to prove that. And I would have to keep supplying transformers to people who are building amplifiers under warranty, which, yeah, I don't want to get into that. That's for someone else to do, okay? What are the common causes? Lead dress is the main one. So poor lead dress is a big cause of that. Best thing you can do in any amplifier is ensure that your anode or plate wires are as far away from your grid wires as possible. It's not always practical to do that. Other things is you've built too much gain into the circuit. Okay, so you're pushing one stage too far. Say you've got say your first gain stage is very high gain, your second gain stage is low gain. Well, rather than doing it that way, split the difference and have both of them running halfway each, maybe. That helps. Sometimes you have to add snubber caps, and you'll see me do that in repair sometimes when it's the quickest and easiest fix. That's a really good way to stem oscillations. So, wow, 9.5 minutes to explain that one. But yes, there we go. So they are, as I said, they are a silent killer, a death sentence for your amp, and you have to get these things sorted. Okay, finally got that socket out of there. That was incredibly tight. And if we spin this over, you can see not soldered at all. If I move that black one out of the way, you'll see it just hasn't been soldered in place. You see it? Unbelievable. Right. Well, we resoldered that into place, and that should fix those problems. Let's have a look at this bump switch. Here it is. So it's just a single pole, single throw. One wire goes to this. I need my pointer again. Where's my pointer gone? Here it is. To this 560 ohm resistor here, and the other side goes to the bottom end of this relay, which then feeds on up to the foot switch. So that's part of the switching circuit. So we need to do some more investigation to work out how that's doing, but can we see any poor solder joints or anything around there at the moment? Not sure. Yeah, so I'll just show you the other black wire comes through to this eyelet here, and then this blue wire goes off to the foot switch jack. So the foot switch, obviously they're doing a switching the bump circuit, but you can manually do it with that switch at the front. Okay, right, that makes more sense. Okay, fine. Can we see anything else? Well, not on the first pass over. The master volume of power scaling. Might well be. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, interesting. Right, so shall we at least do a bench test? Yeah, let's get this thing up on the bench, measure its output, see what it's doing. I'm going to resolder that jack before we do that, and then we get some bass lines. Just had my tenancy renewal through from the landlord here. And I was just looking back, and I realised that I've been in this unit, the old farm chicken shed, for 6 years now, and it's gone like that. And I guess we lost a couple of years to COVID. That's why everyone says they've lost some time. But yeah, 6 years I've been in this unit, which is bizarre. I'll put a picture on the screen now of what it looked like when I moved in. It was the old picture framing shop here on the farm, and the old boy passed away, so they cleared it out and they put it up for a rent, and I snapped the landlord's hand off and said, yeah, I'll take it, I want the space, I'll take it. And it's been 6 years now, almost to the week, that I've been in this unit. I think I actually got the keys end of November 2018. But then I had to, we had to do the flooring, we had to, repaint the place. Probably needs redoing again now, to be honest. Get the heater and the aircon, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was 6 years ago. So I was just looking back at some pictures, and I thought, I may as well, for those who are new to the channel, give you a bit of a history lesson on Rift. So I went full time with Rift in, what was it? April 2013. that's when I decided I wanted to start selling this stuff commercially and try and make a living out of it. I was a music teacher and a travelling guitar teacher at the time, working in various local schools, and I was getting a bit fed up with it. And I was, building amps at home for friends and other musicians, and fixing amps and just messing around with old radios and stuff like that. And then I thought I'll start this as a little part-time business, I guess, see how we get on. And then in April 2013 was when I stopped the guitar school, stopped the primary school music teaching, and went full-time with it. And I was building at the time and fixing amps out of a little cupboard room at home that measured, it was 1 meter deep by 1.5 meters wide. And I know those dimensions because I managed to get, not this desk here, not this one here, but the one that's down there. It's the original Riff desk. They're exactly 1 meter wide. So I was able to get that, to shoehorn that into the cupboard, and a chair. And I used to close the door and sit in my little cave and working on amplifiers. And I loved it back then. And anyway, I found a picture, which I'll put on the screen now, of what that looked like. You can just see how cramped it was in there. And I had the desk, I had all my tools in the drawer, and I still work the same way. I had my power sockets in front of me, and up above I had my oscilloscope and my signal generator, so I could work on stuff. And it was a great little hobby room, and that's how I started doing it. And I was in there for almost 2.5 years building amps out of that cupboard, right? Because then in September 2015, I needed more space. I was, the business was getting quite serious at that point, churning stuff out. I was having to store stuff in storage lockers. So I rented 2 storage lockers, and I had everything in there, speakers and cabinets and stuff, and I'd have to pop out of home, go down to the place, get what I needed, bring it back. Anyway, I wanted to have a bigger space. Anyway, we at my mum's house, she had a garage conversion done, where they converted the garage into a room, a much larger room than I was in, and she said I could use that to run Rift for as long as I needed. It was a bit more space, gave me more time to do things, more flexibility, all that kind of stuff. And so, as far as I'm concerned, for my own small little business that was building hand-wired amps and fixing stuff for people, it was great. And I moved into there, and I was in there for just under 2 years. Just under 2 years I was in that room building stuff, and it was great. It was messy, it was cramped, because my business was growing quicker than I could find space for. But it still meant I was rent free. I wasn't having to rent a commercial place from somebody. I could turn up, I could go when I wanted, and it was great, and it worked well. And I loved building amplifiers in that place. We did some really cool stuff in that room. Really enjoyed building amps, fixing them, prototyping, all that stuff. I mean, that room was probably, I don't know, 3.5 meters by 3 meters. It wasn't huge, but at the time for me it was a great upgrade, and I loved it, and I had a great time in there. Unfortunately, Mum is disabled, and she wanted to use that room as a downstairs bedroom because she could no longer climb the stairs. So I had to move out and find somewhere, and I couldn't afford a proper commercial place. They're so expensive. It was ridiculous. you know, if you go to a rental place, they want 6 months deposit up front, and they want an extortionate amount of money, and the business simply couldn't afford it. But anyway, I was ringing around, and I found a number for somebody in an online listing, and I phoned the number, and I spoke to this woman, and I said, look, I build guitar amplifiers. I don't need a big workshop. As long as it's dry and reasonably warm, I'll take what you've got. And she said to me, I've got this unit, it's coming up for rent in about 6 months, 4 to 6 months, I think she said. It's not available yet, but it's exactly what you're looking for. And she told me the price per month, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, there's no way, it's less than half of what everyone else was charging. So I went over to view it, and who was in there before me? Oh yeah, I went over to view it. It was currently being used as a small office space, but the business that was in there at the moment couldn't move out until they had built their new office space in their new unit on the farm. So I had to wait. And so, but I said, I'll take it. It's perfect, and I'll show you what that looks like. Come on, where's the picture? Here it is. Yeah. So that was the unit. But before I could move in there, I had to find somewhere, because I had to get out of the house. But there wasn't anywhere. But the farmer said to me that they had a bungalow on site, right? That her mum used to live in, and it was currently unused. And as long as I paid the all the utilities and stuff, I could have it rent free until my new unit was available. So I worked out of the bungalow front room for how long was I in there for? July, August, September, October. So 4 months I was in the bungalow, which was tough. You know, you never felt like you'd fully settled in somewhere. You were always working out of boxes. You could never get things out properly, because I knew I'd be moving in a short period of time, but I didn't know how long. And it was great, because it didn't really cost me anything. I think I was paying, I don't know, 40 quid a month in electric, and that was about it. So fine, great. Anyway, eventually my unit came up, and I was able to move in there. And that was what felt like my first proper workshop for Rift. I had a dedicated space with storage, and a little demo area, and I could be in my own space. I could actually, move around and do things and set things up properly. And I was in Unit 5 for it was only 13 months, actually. I was only in there for 13 months. And I was going to stay longer, but that's when this unit came up. Because I'd always said to the landlord, the farmer, if that unit ever comes up for sale, ask me first. And if I can afford it, I'll take it. Anyway, it did come up for rent. And she said to me that, this is the price. And I went, it's a bit too much, I can't afford it. And she said, well, if you help clear it out, if you help do the flooring, decorate it, all that kind of stuff, I'll do you a deal on it. And I snapped it up. And that was 6 years ago. And so December 2018, I moved into the chicken shed, which is where I am now. And I think I'm going to be here for quite a long time, because I like it. It's perfect for me. I've got the little shop area out the front where customers come in. I've got my centre room here, which is the main workshop area, and out the back I've got storage, I've got a kitchen, I've got the toilet, and it's great, and I love it. And the running costs are cheap overall, and I don't ever see myself having to move out of here. It's wonderful. So I do like this place. I still want to decorate out the front and make the customer area a bit nicer, but I am surprisingly slow at doing stuff like this. But yeah, this is my workshop, this is my unit, and that's kind of a brief history of Rift, where we are, what's going on. You remember this had a rewire back in, was it last year or was it early this year? We had to have a rewire in here, have all the electrics redone. When was that? Yeah, it was this year. Anyway. But yeah, this is my little workshop. I'm going to need to do the redo the flooring as well. The carpet tiles need replacing, but you know, that's all part and parcel of it. It's fine, we shan't complain. Anyway, what I did find whilst going back through my photo archives trying to find these pictures for you was a picture of an amp that I'd completely forgotten that I'd built. And it was a customer contacted me at the time saying he really wanted me to build for him a low wattage Dumble style amplifier, and it was something I was keen to do, but not something I'd done before, so it was kind of a, you know, a proof of concept, a prototype thing. And I built him a single-ended amplifier with a Dumble preamp, and we called it the Warp Drive Special. You can see it here now on screen, and I built that for him in my very first workshop in the cupboard. For those that are interested, the cupboard now has my tumble dryer in. That's how small that cupboard is. But yeah, I just looking through the pictures and I saw that, and it just brings back all those memories of all those really cool amps that I was building early on. Long time ago now. The Warp Drive Special. And it made me think. Because you remember on, was it last week's video? We said, you know, what kind of amps do I want to do in the future? What plans have I got? And I'd like to build one of those again. So if you're interested in a 6 watt, I think they're a 6 watt Warp Drive Special amp, get in touch, might be able to do something. I also want to build, I've got a faceplate set for it, a Mark 1 JTM 45. I've done them before, but they've got it up at the Marshall Museum, the very first Marshall, the very first JTM with the green transformers and stuff, and I want to build another one of those. So I might just build it for myself, but if anyone's interested, please get in touch. I'd love to, you know, as some cool little project things. Maybe I'll do that as a I mean, how old is Riff now? I'm in my 12th year, aren't I? So I've done 11 years. I'm in my 12th year. So maybe for my 13th anniversary I'll do something. I don't know, anyway. But yeah, isn't that a cool amp? God, cream chicken head knobs. That special font, Warp Drive Special. I wonder where it is. I wonder who's got that amp. Who's got it? I can't remember. If you're the owner of that amp, get in touch. I'd love to see it again. All I remember, it was in a brown cocoa head cabinet. But somebody's got that amp. Somebody owns it. It must still be out there. And if you own that amp, get in touch. Right, up and running on the bench. Into 8 ohms. So I've got the 8 ohm impedance selected. Driving 8 ohms. Usual score, 1 kilohertz, 150 millivolt RMS sine wave being injected into the front end. Master volume on full, tone control on 0, and we've just advanced the, what do they call it? The volume control at the start to up to point of clipping. Nice clean sine wave there. 10 volts RMS. Into 8 ohms puts us 12.5 watts, and they've rated this amplifier at 12 watts. So great, fantastic. Now the master control, this one round here, in the manual it says our master voltage emulates the tonal response of a big amp only at low volumes. The master voltage knob reduces the B plus voltage and output in the amp in a unique way that keeps the internal tube relationship perfect while keeping the filament voltage up. Right? So they're just power scaling the B plus. After seeing all other power schemes' shortcomings, we've come at this from a different angle and we're very pleased with the results. you can dial this amp down to 3 watts output without losing tone, feel, vocabulary, authority, etc. That sounds like hi-fi bullshit, doesn't it? But there's nothing special about that power scaling circuit. They're just power scaling the B+. Fine, all right, just call it what it is. Does it go down to 3 watts though? So let's reduce the control. For 3 watts into 8 ohms, we're looking at 5 volts. So we're looking for about half voltage output. So we'll scale it down, and it goes down to 1.5 volts, which is 0.3 watts. Do you think that's what they meant? We go up to 5 volts, which will be our 3 watts. That's what the output looks like. All right. Full power, 10 volts. That's 3 watts. And with the control all the way fully clockwise, we're getting 1.2, 1.4. So about half a watt. So, not sure about that. But all it's doing is reducing B+. It's nothing special. But it does work. So cool, great. Let's turn it back up. This, what do they call it? Bump control. In one position, you get a really low output there. Hold on a minute, have I got it the wrong way around? So the bump off is there. Okay, so let's bring that up to 10 volts. Flick the bump switch on, and you get a quite a big gain boost. We're getting around 16 watts now, but you see it quite heavily distorted there. So that it's doing what it says it does. It's just quite noisy when it does it. So yeah, interesting indeed. Resoldering that, however, has fixed our issue with the noisy jack. So that's now fixed. So I'm going to go through, give this thing a good old service, take some voltage measurements, do my voltage map, of course, get some nice baselines for it. But I'm kind of in between two minds on this, because I kind of really like this amp. I like the way it performs. I like the features it's got. I did enjoy playing it briefly, but I'm just not sure about the way they've tried to sell it. But you know, yeah, I do enjoy it. I do like it. Don't like the tremolo, but that's, you know, I'd change it to a different style. It's too choppy, and it doesn't go slow enough in my opinion. But that's something else. But overall, the tone and the way this thing plays is quite nice. I just wish it was built ever so slightly better. Well, you can't win all of them. This is is it 66 or 67 Super Reverb. This is the one that came in a few weeks back now. Had a couple of issues. One was the reverb control was very noisy. We found a leaky cap on the board. This is the one that also had the really bad tremolo tick that we fixed with the snubber cap across the anode resistor for the trem. And the other issue, unfortunately, was that it was incredibly noisy. And it has got a conductive board which you can measure, and it gets worse over time. So the longer you run this thing, the worse the board becomes conductive. Not only is the board conductive, but some of the wires, cloth wire is too. And you can see I've already tried to fix the worst of it with some new cloth wire on the overboard jumpers. Unfortunately, it's just too bad. I did all the usual tricks, thoroughly cleaned the top of the board, removed all the pots, folded the board backwards, cleaned the underside of the board and the insulator board too, but it's just too far gone. It will need a replacement board and a rewire, which is sad news. Now, the customer has declined that repair from me because he wants to have a go himself. He wants to build himself his own board, which I'm going to supply to him, one of my FR4 boards. He's going to populate that, and he's going to rewire the amp to bring it back, because he built the head cabinet and the speaker cabinet for it as well. So it's kind of a bit of a project for him. So he's going to have a go at that. So he's declined me doing the work because he's going to have a go himself. Such a shame, but the amp will live on. It will get fixed, but money sometimes is an issue in these things, and he's quite a clever chap, so he's going to have a go at doing it himself, and fair play to him. So I'm going to help him out with that best way I can, but he's on his way this week to come and collect. He's the guy that came all the way down from Scotland to drop this thing in. So, but we do have. I mean, here's the thing, right? It is noisy and the board is conductive. It would be okay for live use. It's a fair way to put it. You could gig this and it's not going to annoy you, but that's not his application. He wants to record with this and use it at home, and the noise floor and the rustling and any of the other artifacts are just past that threshold where you'd say it's usable. So unfortunately it is a declined repair. The Ampeg B15N, this is the serial number 128251, and this one is in for service as required, cap job, etc, etc. So I'm just looking through it, giving it a visual inspection. It's fixed bias amplifier, so it's not cathode bias like the earlier amp. It's got the two 10 microfarad 100 volt caps in the bias supply. It's got the 40-40-40 multi-section cap down there, which I've been trying to get a good angle of this on camera, but I can tell that it is swelling and it is bulging, so it's definitely need for replacement. However, the dynamite stick cap is pretty bad. You can see it's all the electrolyte has decided to leave, so we need to get that swapped out. And this one is, I think they're 30 microfarad, aren't they? Yeah, 30 microfarad, 600 volts. So as it's a recap, and I was thoroughly impressed with the flip-topped kit for the V4B, we're going to go again on that one, because I've had a look around and I can't get all of these values that I need in the UK in one place. And it's actually going to be cheaper for me to get the kit imported from the States. So that's what we're going to do. Going to get that done, and then we can recap it, fire it up, check it over. But overall, it's in pretty nice condition. Apart from that, it's not bad. It's not the cleanest one I've seen, but it's also not the worst. So yeah, overall, pretty good. We'll give it a 7 out of 10 at the moment. We'll get it up to an 8 or a 9. Just finished up with the Ampeg V4B. It's now on a cool down. It's had its final soak test. All is good. I just wanted to show you the final numbers that we ended up with, because it's very interesting. These are the final bias numbers for the amp. Anode to cathode voltage was 459 on valves 9 and 8, and 458 on 7 and 6. Screen voltage was about 1 volt lower on each. Our bias voltage, roughly the same across the board. We had to measure the resistance across the output transformer to get our anode current. 31.7 amps each valve on this side, 31.8 on this one. It means the 7027s, which are a 30 watt maximum, are only running at 48.5 and 48.6% of maximum, which seems very low, right? However, the amp final output measurement was 28.2 volts into 8 ohms as RMS, which puts us at 99.4 watts. So near as damn it 100 watts RMS at the point of clipping, which is fine. Now the only thing that has thrown me is on the schematic on the back of the panel. You can see it's saying we should have 540 volts on the anodes, right? But we don't. We only have 460. So 80 volts down. Not sure about that, but let me just show you something. If we, for example, had the same amount of current running through the valve, so 0.0317 So 31.7 milliamps on that side. But we times that figure by 540 volts on the anode. We only get 17 watts dissipation. So divided by 30, they're only running at 57%. So not far off where we are now, but we're getting the output. We're getting really good tone. And I'll show you the other thing is that our bias voltage was negative 48.6. Well, this is saying we should be at this point here, negative 64. So we're biased, we've got a more positive bias number, or less negative, whichever way you want to look at it. And the amp's running fine. It's nice, it's running great. I don't want to turn the bias up even more because we haven't got any crossover distortion. It's pulling out the clean power it's meant to. I'm absolutely fine with that. Yeah, so I'm going to call it good. It sounds great. It's not noisy, it's not hummy, it sounds fantastic. So yeah, that's good for me. I'm quite happy with those numbers. If we want to run the valves cool and we still get the performance that we need, absolutely great, go for it, sign me up. So all I've got to do now is stick the chassis back in the cabinet, reassemble everything, and yeah, then the customer can have it. But this one is done. So yeah, classic example of not having to over bias stuff to get the output. This thing is quite happy at under 50%. Isn't that amazing? But there you go. The numbers don't lie. The performance doesn't lie. This amp is quite happy at that bias point. This is the super clean ultra linear 70 watt Pro Reverb, the Silver Panel 1. The work on this is now all complete, all done. Really happy with it. So it's had a full recap, both the filter caps and the electrolytics on the board and the couple that are down here on the sockets. Full service, full go through. It's whisper quiet and it sounds fantastic. So absolutely no problem with that. I mean, volume on 10, you can barely tell it's on. It's unbelievably quiet. This is such a clean, beautifully performing amplifier. Now, some people don't like the ultra linear amps, some people don't like the silver panel amps, but this one is a beaut. It's got such a crystal clear, yet rich and sparkly tone to it that no wonder people were still buying them when they were brand new. It's just brilliant. So it's a fantastic example of what these amps should be like if you look after them. So yeah, all good. Got to stick it back in its cabinet, and then a customer can have it back. So we always give back, well, I always give back to the customer all of the parts that I've replaced. So we've got a couple of caps and resistors there. That were the ones from the filter board, and the rest of the electrolytics there. There was also a fuse as well. If I remember correctly, the fuse that was in it, it was a 6 amp and it needed a 3 amp. So we've swapped that out as well. But yeah, that's all the bits back. You'll get those with the amp, so you can keep it with it should he ever sell it on. He's got all the original bits for it. But yeah, such a privilege to work on such a clean amp. And I've gone through, as I always do, done a full voltage map, so I know exactly what things are, how they go. So next time I get one of these in, which I invariably will, I've got what you could argue would be the best example to work from. So there you go. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. As always, please give this video a thumbs up. All your comments and questions down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're feeling super generous, why not join the channel like these guys have? And I will catch you all at the next one.